Recording was required already online.
Kia ora koutou, ka mihi mahana kia ora te tēnei pō, no mai o mai tēnei kōrero o te Māori Standing Hui, nui ora. Before we do our cut here, I just wanted to say something. I just realised that I was looking at Tia Tahia on Facebook today, and she just mentioned that we're going into the lunar phase of fiddle. And so with the fiddle comes the kōrero around conserving our energy and a little bit tone, and that we probably not the best time for big decision making, but more about a little bit of planning, but just keeping ourselves just spending time with the ones you love. So yeah, that's our kōreros. We're in fiddle. So we're looking to make things flow tonight. So kind of kia te tīmatanga.
Tukua te wairua kia rere ki ngā taumata, hei arahi I a tātou mahi, me tā tātou whai I ngā tikanga a rātou mā, kia mau, kia ita, kia kore ai e ngā ro, kia pupuri, kia whakamaua, kia tīna, hui e, tāi e.
Also want to formally welcome Phyllis Baker and Michelle Elliott. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Council passed.
Yeah.
Yes, no problem. Actually, there was a good comment about fantastic instead. We vote on.
Thank you.
Great. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's been good. Health and safety, the emergency exits for the supper room are clearly indicated. If we need to evacuate the building, use any of the emergency exits and head towards Texas Street and assemble in the playground area. Please remain in the assembly area until the building has confirmed clear.
It's Texas Street, Marita.
That's this one right, yeah, Texas Street in the playground.
Oh, we're on that. Yeah.
If you're going to have a play, it's
The apologies, we have received apologies from Mayor Alex and Karen and Haida. I haven't heard anything from Wangitane yet. And do we know Teresa? Is she?
No, I haven't heard from Teresa. I'll speak to her a couple of days ago. Sorry.
I moved that the apologies from Mayor May and Karen Wangitane be received. Do I have a seconder? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, say no. Carried. Extraordinary item. Before we move to our agenda items, we have an item to add to the agenda, the Te Tapua Haumaru Care Fund, cultural installations and events. This will be discussed as a minor item under agenda item 8.1 of the Chairperson's report. So that's a copy of this one here. So we'll talk about that later. Conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Does anyone have any acknowledgements or tributes they would like to make?
I'd like to make a tribute to Lola Kiai.
Oh, sure.
A long-standing member of Māori Ki Marae, and in fact both her and her husband Tui were both held, both of the two of our elders at our local marae, and she'll be missed.
Mother.
Yes,
Yeah,
Lola's
Lola.
mother is Lola, yeah.
Oh,
Senior.
Lola is
Lola Senior.
Lola. Oh.
Okay, this evening we have no public speakers confirmed, so we'll move on to the officers' introductions. And so officers' introduction, first up we've got Steve. Steve, would you like to come to the, come. Yeah?
anyway.
How do you say your surname, Steve?
Kia ora start.
Oh, how to do that again?
Kia ora start.
Kia ora start.
But I think official.
Kia ora start.
No such please relax.
Yeah. Kia ora start.
Kia ora start.
Yes.
Funky names. You've got a really new surname too, and how do you say yours?
I'm still learning. Freshman? Technically. It's a Swiss German pronunciation.
Oh, Swiss.
I can't quite get there.
What is going to say?
You need to come to card for it. So here I am.
See.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me here tonight. So I'm the new Community Development Coordinator with the South Wairaka District Council. And as part of that, I'm also supporting the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs 50% until the end of June. And I just wanted to have an opportunity to introduce myself, talk briefly about the role and request the support of the Māori Standing Committee with regards to advice on tangata whenua and Māori interests and how to be able to do meaningful engagement with Māori community, meaningful community engagement and community development. So the Community Development Coordinator role purpose is to work in partnership with the community. So that is iwi and hapu and ropu and community groups and agencies and local council and community boards and more, residents, to develop and coordinate and provide services and programs and initiatives and also policies that might enhance, that will enhance community wellbeing and aspirations. The background to the Community Development Coordinator role is that Council has identified that there is a gap that needs to be addressed in terms of community development. The 2019 Local Government Wellbeing Amendment Act identified that councils need to play a broader role in promoting social, economic, environmental and cultural wellbeing.
Steve, sorry, could you tell me what was that act again that you referred to?
The 2019 Local Government Wellbeing Amendment Act.
Oh. Thank you.
And
It's a local government act, it's just a.
the community development then is about making our communities a great place to grow up and to grow old and everything in between. It's about creating those relationships and working together for everyone to feel a sense of belonging. And there's been many different types of community development over centuries probably. And in early 2000s, a bit of a new approach was identified, which is the community-led development approach, which seeks to foster communities to thrive and be strong and resilient. And it uses place as an organising platform, which basically means that because people who live, work, play or invest or care or otherwise relate to or come from a place will have a vested interest in making that place even better and working together to do that. So therefore it's a more collaborative approach as well, which enables everyone to work together as opposed to maybe just having one agency or a provider to come in and sort of try to make a change happen. And the role of local government is to support and connect and advise and enable and communicate and advice in terms of funding and how to work together and to resource the community to identify what their visions are and their aspirations are for their well-being. So it puts the community and the people that live in their communities at the heart of this work, and they are the key players in enabling their own well-being and the community development and the aspirations of the community. So as part of this, part of the role, as I said, I'm also supporting the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, and I might be taking up too much time now, but just wanted to quickly introduce that if you haven't heard about it. So this is a nationwide initiative where more than 20 rural councils are part of it. And the vision is to have all young people under the age of 25 in employment or training or education or positive activities that contribute to their communities. It's very much about identifying opportunities and ways to support our rangatahi that have fallen through the gaps, and identify a way forward for them that is aligned with their aspirations to make sure that they are successful. And it is also very much about working with the community and very often employers, obviously, to make sure that they are youth employment ready and that the whole community is working together towards this vision. And that, I think, is me. If you have any questions, then I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
I'll just give a little bit of context. So I started in a council, we were a traditional council that fixed pipes, built roads, and managed all the infrastructure. We didn't have any services for people in our community. So what we did have was a series of grants we provided to community groups and a goodwill of people to connect. We didn't have actually any professional people employed in the area of social welfare, trying to connect and work with our communities, particularly looking at some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. And so talked with the councillors, as Cliff and Jeff were saying, said, this is an area of business that this council is weak at, and we need to actually be better. I mean, the other obvious area we're weak at, which I'll be talking about, is our whole mana whenua, our whole relationship with Harper and so forth. So there's a nice connection here. When we talked to Suzanne, when we talked to Kaunui, we talked about your aspiration to bring the young people home and have employment and connect them around the marae, around employment, those types of, so this is the sort of role that we're trying to create. It's only one person, but we're looking at building. This is how can we help actually connect our communities, look after the aspiration to bring our rangatahi home, to all those types of things. So that's a really important to sit us here tonight, because that's what we heard at Kapawai, that's what we heard at Kauriki. The biggest aspiration is looking after our people, bringing them home, and create an environment where they can be successful in terms of employment and social connection. But what I want to comment is that we haven't done this before. So we're not experts, we need your guidance, we're just starting this journey. So any support you can give to see you, so much the better.
Actually, can I just raise something? I got an inbound email from a guy called Tim Brinstrom, who's he works for Central District's Pest Control. So he kind of reached out to me, and I guess because my name is on the Māori Standing Committee, my email, but actually it was about employment in the Wairarapa for people. I thought I'd bring it here to discuss later if there was an opportunity, but given it's around job creation, and they're actually looking, often jobs are short term, they're actually looking to something that's more sustainable. Yeah. Is that something we can kind of connect up so I can?
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, because I was going to introduce it here and share that corridor with everyone, but maybe now that you're here, that's an opportunity to link in as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to support that to happen, and I would love your advice and how that also can best support the rangatahi, because it is, it's very much about what is going to work for the individual and also what's going to work here is maybe not always what we think is going to work, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I certainly, the first questions I rang him just very briefly to say, okay, well, what are you expecting? Are you going to pay, at least the living wage? So all those kind of basic questions just to see if this was a good fit, but it's not for me to decide. It was, I think, an opportunity for us to then explore if this lines up, but there's definitely an environmental aspect to this in terms of pest control, which kind of felt like it might fit.
Good. But there's also, I think there's other contracts that we're trying to develop that are around planting and conservation. And
they're doing that too. They're doing that too. Okay.
GWRC and
I'll send it to everybody.
These are jobs for nature. So we're trying to connect up those two. And so essentially we've got funding from MSD, who holds, if you like, the pool of people who need employment, and it's about connecting them to opportunities that aren't just a little bit of work, some of it grow them.
Exactly, that was the idea that he was sharing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not only for rangatahi though, is it? It's for wider.
I would say that, the criteria is generally the 15 to 24, but it's also for people who have lost the job or become disadvantaged as a result of COVID. And I think that while it might not fit, you know, with the targets that, say, Mia's task force is out to achieve, I think that anyone who's looking for work and who's not able to find work otherwise, but that could find work through this project, we'd like to support them. And that would be a successful outcome. Yeah.
So is this an initiative that was started here or other councils?
So employing Steve in terms of doing community development is definitely our initiative.
Okay.
The Mayor's Task Force for Jobs is a national thing. But Alex absolutely is due. You know, and Alistair, our councils picked this up and said, we will run this. You know, if we try to do it as a staff, we'll be swamped. So we've brought in Steve part-time.
Cool.
Basically, hard work and graft and full credit to Alistair and Alex. They're doing a
Cool.
really good job.
And also the Wairarapa Whānau Trust is the organisation that's got the contract to deliver the Mayor's Task Force in the South Wairarapa. And so they do most of that youth liaison and understanding needs, and then finding the appropriate ways to support the different rangatahi in their journey. And then they do pastoral care as well after they have been employed or are put in training, and they also support employers in terms of pastoral care. And I'm more of an employee liaison, so I'm talking to employers in the community and identifying opportunities, but they do a lot more work, you know, once there is that relationship as well with the employee to make sure that it's successful.
And some serious money. I mean, the MSD have put in half a billion dollars, 500 million.
Not to South Warwick District.
That's all that
We're
was on.
getting half a billion and just in South Warwick,
Oh, great.
you know, for this kind of stuff. So the MSD, you know, it's really good serious money for it. It's great.
So Tony, you'll forward the email to Steve or Steve?
I will, yeah, to everybody. I was going to table it later on, but yeah.
And you said you're only until June though? Well,
So she's full-time as a
yeah,
community
I
development
think Karen
officer.
might be able to,
But
yeah.
and the half-time community development, half-time Mayor's Task Force jobs.
Yeah.
Because the main thing is we want to get ahead of this community development side of things. What Civ does in terms of the employment stuff is good, but actually getting right ahead of the game, the whole social wellbeing, what we do for our vulnerable is much bigger than just a job placement.
So is that till June? That one?
So the Mayor's Task Force for job part of
Yeah.
50%, then she becomes full-time doing the other bit.
Oh,
Yeah, which is all the whole community development.
yeah,
So we've got someone really focused on the area full stop.
yeah. But Mayor's Task Force will continue.
And that will
Yeah.
continue, but not with her,
Yeah.
you know, not with Civ, it'll be someone else.
Cool.
I was thinking about, you know, how Alan Maxwell set up the youth group in.
That's the one.
That's what I-
I trust, that's what we use.
That's part of the Mayor's Task Force. So
Yeah, so he's the one that has the contract, yeah.
He's finished, yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking that how many children how many youth from Martin were involved in that?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we were talking about what are the statistics of our vulnerable kids in that age group and from each town. And you asked.
I've requested some stats on that from MSD, although I have to say that, you know, those stats might not include the ones that are registered with the Mayor's Task Force, because you might find that the people that are already registered through MSD, they will get MSD support to identify opportunities. And it's the people that are not registered anywhere that we are sort of trying to link up with, and we do that through Kuranui and when people leave school and any other way that we can identify word of mouth who is out there in the community. The work that Alan Maxwell did was amazing, and you know he had a finger in every pie pretty much, and he was everywhere. And he was able to connect a lot of the young people with this opportunity, and then once someone was employed and the other people heard about that, you know, then they wanted to be part of it. So it had a really awesome flow-on effect where more and more people found out about the positive benefits of it and bought in. But I have to say as well that I think the first pilot and the first year was very much around kind of picking the low hanging fruit as well. And this is the time when it's becoming more challenging to identify who actually needs the support. It might also be a time where it's more challenging to work with employers because they might not be the employers anymore that have got loads of resources and time to invest in a young person. So we have to make sure that everyone is supported. But I will work with the Wairarapa Whānau Trust and also MSD and try to get hold of some numbers in terms of the numbers in Markham Borough, Featherston, Greytown, rural and coastal, and also compare that to MSD registered numbers.
The MSD focus very much on a group they call NEETs.
Yeah.
Which is young people who need education, training.
Yeah.
And so that people and just lost in the system, they're lost. And so they're focusing on, that's the group that MSD is particularly interested in. But equally, in this particular context, as Steve has said, there's people who have been displaced by COVID. Or just, so it's a much, and so rather than just MSD, fortunately, have said, okay, we're interested in this group, but there's a bigger catchment. Anyone that's just been displaced, that's having struggling with employment, fill your boots and try and help, which is really good. Putting people in the box.
And also the youth coordinator for the Wairarapa Whānau Trust, from my understanding, will also have a role in supporting youth events and that kind of thing. But we want to work with the wider community and identify more opportunities and ways that we can make sure that we connect with the rangatahi that is meaningful to them, and that means that they feel comfortable coming to us to seek support. Who's the youth coordinator? Who is the youth coordinator? So there was a youth coordinator, Fiona Black, who was covering that between December and just recently. Unfortunately, she's actually finished in that role and they're just moving on to another person who I understand will cover both of those aspects.
That's the job that Alan had, is it?
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you, Sue.
Very good.
Thank you.
Steve, I don't know, a really good thing, actually, thank you with like Suzanne and Papa White, actually, online and chat about some of the aspiration there. It's quite a different thing. Each of those would be quite good to just look at that. I certainly found it really enlightening myself. It's a very different journey than here. To listen to each of the individual aspirations of each of the Harvard groups. And that's really, so I just offer, please take that opportunity to, and I'm assuming
I was also thinking about even the likes of Pirinoa. There's the pub that employs someone. There's all the time. There's they will always have a student as well as other people, from the community working there. But and I noticed the Land Girl at Pirinoa advertising for, they could only be open so many hours because they haven't got someone to fill the other hours to be able to keep it open more often. And so even maybe getting the community of Pirinoa together to see how they cope with having their young ones, I guess they'll work on the farms, and if they don't want to work on the farms, then where can they go? What do they do?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, that another really a key obstacle to the rangatahi getting into work is transport. And so that would be, crucial if you live in Whirinoi and you don't want to work on farms. And it's very much about finding solutions around that and starting to work early, for instance, with Kuranui as well, before they leave school.
So you are working with Kuranui already?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you be at council like most days of the week at the moment, or will you just be?
I definitely available by phone, and I try to be in Martin Borough Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. This week there is an auditing team in there, so I'm working more kind of remotely. And I just had my children start soccer again, so I have to rearrange a little bit of my hours, but I'll let you know. I'm definitely available, keen to meet. I can, drive over and meet anyone anytime you want.
She's full-time employed by us.
Yeah. If you've got questions, then run past us and just contact me.
Awesome. Okay, appreciate that, Donna.
Very good.
Evening, Gareth.
Evening also, I'm late.
That's all right.
Traffic.
Where's your note?
I can't believe any.
The dog ate it.
Excuse me.
It's actually going in, was closed too. Stay over two was closed going in. Branch.
We were expecting Bikaida here tonight. So Bikaida is the cultural advisor of Wellington Water. So when they first came to council and Wellington Water came across, we had Kara Dentist, his sister, Maiora, and then Maiora left, and then there was nobody. So Wellington Water had no conduit for Māori, for us to talk to if we had concerns. And then I was sort of wondering what was going on, and then they have now appointed Bikaida. So she was going to be coming over from Wellington to introduce us.
She's probably the traffic.
Yeah, and to explain her role, but since she's not here, we'll move on, and if she does arrive, we'll go back. So minutes of confirmation, are there any corrections needed to the Māori Standing Committee meeting of the 16th of February 21? Anybody got any corrections, any comments? We have the report discussed. Hey, do I have a mover that the minutes of the Māori Standing Committee?
I'll move.
And do I have a seconder? Aye. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say cold. Motion is carried. Right, we're up to the election of a deputy. So do I have a move to receive the election of the Māori Standing Committee Deputy Chairperson report?
Yeah.
Thank you, GP. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Pip. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say cold. Are there any nominations for the position of Deputy Chair to the Māori Standing Committee?
Well, Karen's not here.
No, don't worry.
Is that all, teacher?
Any nominations? I'd like to report a nomination.
I'd like to nominate Andrea.
Can't wait. It's going to be the same.
Excellent. This makes it really easy because there are actually two voting methods and we don't want to get complicated.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah.
clear person makes life really easy because then I have to explain the voting methods. I really don't know.
I know.
I'd like to second that nomination. If Andrea is going to accept the nomination.
Tell me, Andrea.
And it just makes a difference if people are available.
That's great.
I'll just
Excellent.
advertise Pip for tomorrow.
Yep. Make sure to send me the information.
Andrea. Congratulations, Andrea.
Well, no, you put the motion. Everyone has to vote, you know, so.
Right.
So you're, officially what you're doing is you're adopting a,
We've adopted that.
you're electing a deputy using system A.
Yeah.
Which is where there's a
Yeah.
majority of people who will agree to clear nominations.
Yep.
Seconded, and everyone passes it, then that stands. So, you just need to say, does everyone remove a second of the appointment of the deputy chair?
So we've got Cheryl to move and
Suzanne seconds.
And then we just know when we
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Good, that's it.
Done.
Yeah, you know.
To the contrary.
Yeah.
All those against?
There's no one to.
Oh,
They
yes.
all voted for.
Yeah, everyone said aye.
Everyone said aye. Bad luck. Good try.
Congratulations.
Okay, 7.2 officers report. We will now move on to 7.2, the officers report. Do I have a mover to receive the report?
I'll move to receive the report.
And do I have a seconder?
Aye.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say aye. Carried. Are there any questions or clarification you would like to ask at this time?
So anything from, so there's two reports, it's planning and regulatory.
Yeah.
Which is pretty straightforward kind of stuff.
Page 10.
Probably the assets and services, probably the the most significant thing here.
Are you going to tell us what page to go to, Harry?
Page 10. Page 10 to 54. So anything, I don't know.
No, but when you said the assets and services,
Yeah.
which page are they on?
So if you, so that's pages.
10 to 54. So then,
Yeah.
So
It's very long.
what page, what level page is it?
Online, it's different.
Mine starts electronically. It says partnerships and operations report.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Oh, yes, that one. That's 23.
Yeah.
23.
So probably the key things here, Featherston wastewater. We've been really struggling with what we do in this particular area. So we've allocated $16 million in the long-term plan, and that's really essentially a whole impact. This is something where we put between the water reforms, which are trying to make sure that we can do the right thing in terms of water and what councils can afford. And our dilemma is that to spend the money on what we should do as a responsible council in terms of wastewater management, we just don't have the. It's not the ratepayers can't afford it. We literally do make the money, so we can't borrow the amount of money that would be needed. So I'm suspecting the cost of Featherston. This is looking forward. It'll be in the order of somewhere between $40 and $100 million to meet the modern standards for discharge. So so we're the classic example of what's going on in water reform, where the government quite rightly is saying New Zealand is underinvesting in its wastewater water supply and those types of things. There's a huge deficit that needs to be funded somehow to get everyone on top. It's not trying to blame people. People do look. We do basic. It's not like we're not doing the things we need to do. We want to do it now, the things we want to do, but we just can't afford it. We cannot. The amount of ratepayers. It's like your mortgage on your house, and someone tells you need to rebuild it, and we've only got $20,000 to do it.
Harry, with the Housing Acceleration Fund, was there some suggestion that would include infrastructure and on a grant basis for council?
No. So what the government is proposing right now is to take all of the three waters, so that's water supply, wastewater treatment, and stormwater out of local government totally, and put it into scale, big scale.
Yeah, to get the economies of scale and all that.
Yeah, yeah. And so just give you a sense of that, and it's the one I think we're betting that is the area that will be top of the South Island all the way out to the Waikato, right to the base of South Island. It'll be that big, and there will be one of the South Island, so it'll be Ngāti Porou boundaries. Ngāi Tahu boundary. It'll be because the area crucial place.
Yeah.
And so you'll end up, my pick is you'll end up with one Ngāi Tahu, top of the North Island, central and two.
Just like the Koho.
That will be one region, and your Waikato, Tainui, Bay Plenty will be another, and then Auckland.
So it probably follows broadly the Māori rohe, like Te Taihauru, Waipounamu, Waikatawariki, Tātukara.
And that's the kind of, so I mean, if you took a strict economic rationalist argument, you'd have one for New Zealand, 1.5 million people, just say one.
So just so that I'm clear, if that's the case, if that's the concept, central government is going to take control of this.
Yeah.
It therefore means, in my mind, that council no longer has to fund that. And therefore, the funds that you would normally have for that, you would put somewhere else.
So the big problem is, it's going to come from the same people. It's going to be the right place. So that's the tension that we're trying to manage, is not to do that. And it'd be really easy to say, okay, because whichever system you have, it's like electricity supply. Imagine, there's a user at the end of it who pays for it. Yeah, and so the whole thing, there's nothing that says government's going to pay for it all and the user at the end of it is not going to pay anything. They're still going to have to pay in some form.
So it's going to be like essential.
Okay.
So the whole thing is predicated on how do they create a scale.
Yeah.
So that the cost is minimal because there's scale.
Right.
Right, that's the whole thing. And so the example that they're using in Scotland and England, I mean, there's basically the rest of the world has done this. And the third world, all first world countries have done this. So Scotland's probably ironically the one that's nearest to New Zealand in the sense of 5.5 million people. It's smaller, but it's got vast rural areas, small cities, those types of things. And they're 30 years on from doing this. They made a mistake the first time. They went for 3 entities that didn't work and they centralised it all. And so, but they've put a whole lot of safety mechanisms around it. It's not so it's a complete system. So you, first of all, you have the people who big entities who provide the supply, which is the water, the wastewater and stormwater. Then on the other side, you have a specified regulator. We don't have it's been set up now. That's the water regulator, and that's now been set up. But what they regulate is still going through Parliament, which is the Water Services Bill.
So again, I'm just following my own logic. If it's going to be set up like that in terms of economies of scale, similar to electricity and others, will therefore mean that those in the more remote areas will have to pay a higher rate.
But that's the intention, is to try and avoid that.
They haven't decided.
Yeah. No, they're trying. What they're trying to do, the whole idea of why you go for one is because whoever's got Auckland in the area, by definition, is going to end up with the cheapest household supply.
Yes.
Right. So the trade-off is the more you split it down, exactly what you end up with is people from and the ones that don't have big cities in the areas will pay more. So that's why they're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entities. So the minimum is an aggregation of about 800,000 people. So you need to have a big city basically in that mechanism. But they're setting up a quality regulator. So it's the standards of drinking water, standards of wastewater discharge, standards for stormwater. And that's the part has never been. So we've had Department of Health, but what they can do if things go turtle is very little. So they're setting up a really strong regulator. So for instance, we're fortunate we've got our water supply pretty well nailed, but our wastewater, for instance, the design of our plants still is so bad that almost every year, regardless of how well we manage them, we end up spilling. That's unacceptable. That's totally unacceptable in any stretch of it. It's simply the design of the plants are so substandard that that will happen. I can tell you why, but we'll go to that. But the regulators will say you can't do that. So it will force an upgrade of all the standards of wastewater plants. I was talking with Greater Wellington Regional Council. And I said, because I've worked in the regional council, I said, how did you give us a consent for Martinborough and Greater, given what we know about what we need to do at Featherston? I said, well, actually, if we're doing it now, we've never got those consents. That's your consents. We've gone for 30 years. But the things we can hide behind that will actually do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry, the only thing I think of when things go more centralised is everything ends. I'd like to know what's happened in Scotland, because everything ends up being prioritised, and the bigger voices and the bigger money get priority.
That's where the standards become really important, because so it'll actually be driven by where the risk, the water drinking risk is the greatest, and actually it's a rural areas where that's the greatest risk, not the areas.
That's the drinking water, but then the wastewater.
Wastewater.
Are they going to worry about that?
No, absolutely.
No, that's why the regulators really important.
That's exactly what we're talking about, and that's exactly. So there's thousands of things. The other thing they're setting up is what they call an economic regulator. So it's a bit, and for my money, I don't think they'll set up something different. I think they'll use a Commerce Commission. I think they'll use existing regulator. That's the very awesome view of the world. Don't take that as gospel. But the main reason for that is someone who looks at the consumer, the person at the end of the spectrum, to make sure there's an independent view of pricing. There's an independent, so what people are paying for the support. So one of the key things that in Scotland will set up a thing called an economic regulator. So you have the supply over here central. On the left-hand side, you have a series of rules and standards. And on the other side, you have someone who is guaranteed, and their job is look after the interest of the consumer. So the pricing, investment, and those types of things is done the right way. So, so believe me, there's a huge amount of work going on this, and which we're connected to.
Harry, but
Yeah.
the other thing is, of course, as well, is that all of the infrastructure and those, like all the pipes and everything like that, my understanding is that would also then go to central government, which means that that whole side of what, you know, that's all, that would then be coming down like an electrical company.
This talks about supply to town. What
So
about?
say I have a 3-minute shower, will I get charged just for that 3-minute shower instead of those other, you know, like, is it just going to be like power?
So,
How they charge for it?
So what they, so over time, so I haven't got a percentage, but it'll be something like, believe it or not, in New Zealand overall, of people who use, say drink water. I reckon there's about 40 or 50% who are actually connected to a reticulate system. Right? So, or you know, might be 60%, because you know, there's all people who use tanks and all those kinds of supplies. And so, but over time, what happened in Scotland is they reticulated more and more. And one of the reasons was, and this is the bit in the services bill, it basically says if you administer a private supply to others, so I don't know if you're a motor camp, or you're providing individual people in those types of things,
Right.
you would be the same standard
Yep.
as a municipal supply.
Yes.
You know, so you have to meet literally the same water quality test for all the contaminant streams in it. And so the kicker in that is currently what it says is that if you're unable to do that, make the system fail, this is not the services bill, then it's up to the local authority to take that over, which means that if the water reforms go through, that entity will take over all those small rural supplies as well.
Water services bill or water reform bill?
So they haven't put a bill in yet, or they haven't started anything formally in terms of legislation for the free waters reform. But they have already enacted an act that sets up the water regulator. And I just, for the life of me, the name slipped my, but it's a regulator set up Tamara Ariki, I think it is. So the regulator set up, but what they regulate is being determined by the Water Services Bill, which is going through the parliamentary select process as we speak.
Yeah, I've had it.
But that will split out the other end. So that machinery is already going on. Now, regardless of, say, the water reforms, say the measure we're taking on the table, the regulator is still going to, and we would have to be regulated in the same way. So look at this way, the standards of what we do is lifting dramatically. And thank God.
That's good.
All I can say. I just think it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, we've played around with people's health and work for 2 decades. Actually, so look, so just so we'll get a stronger sense of that, what that looks like in about June. Yeah. Right. So so that the Crown, and it's Nania, as a Minister of Local Government, is absolutely, and for all the right reasons, they want to get this done, and they're going to get this done in this election cycle. Right? Because that's the risk is you get it so far and it gets taken over because they have 2 terms. The central government, 3rd term, you just never know. You know, we've been fortunate over a number of years. We've had at least some number of governments have gone through 3 terms. But this government's got in train these water services reforms. they've got the RMA reforms, and actually personally, I think are the most significant things, and what's going on there. If you want to have conversations, I'm one of 8 CEOs in New Zealand. It's been asked by the Department of Internal Affairs to advise on the RMA. It's because of my background at the Regional Council, NZTA. So
Oh, just because you're on the south bottom of the district.
You're getting my mix of personal view, but also my professional view. It's built up over a number of years. It's not, I've been around a long time.
So somewhere in the reform though, there's an option to opt out, though, isn't there? Councils to opt out.
Yes, yeah.
If they so desire.
Yeah, but it's not a real option.
And doesn't sound like the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, because essentially, if you opt out, then the whole force of the regulator and what you regulate comes on you. The burden of compliance and reporting is higher and higher and higher. And my advice to council is we could not. We just couldn't do it.
Not
we just don't have the funding to do.
Well, this is the same argument for Māori.
Yep,
as well. And they're enforcing that on Māori. But Māori just don't have the resource capability or funding to comply.
And so, and my take is the government want to get this through. Right? They want to get this to work. So they want local government and iwi particularly to be supportive. They can buy us. They can buy you guys and they'll buy us, which is great. They'll put money, throw money at it. They'll give you incentives to actually fix it.
Well, I mean, that would be helpful if they did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Then
Incentives to fix the
Yeah.
because
Because for decades, they've all been out there,
There will be
including
compliance.
councils, and right, globally.
And it'll be done.
So that, Marae are effectively a business.
I think Marae should be held accountable to be able to provide safe drinking water and that sort of thing. I've got no problem with that.
Yeah. Well, look, it's put in perspective. When I arrived here, I put 17 water supplies. The method of treatment didn't have any UV, or it had UV. The local farmer came and tipped a sack of chlorine into the big tank. It's like a swimming pool, right? And just takes it into the tank. And so for 3 days, people were over chlorinated. Probably for the rest of the week, there's no chlorine in it at all. So it just honestly, it was just.
But so, to be fair, the standards have.
Oh, the standards are. We didn't know. We didn't know. So and look, and this is here. This is now, and this is 2 years ago.
Can I just clarify one thing? So when you mentioned, like, for example, the or Marae or providing the supply, what about private homes? Private homes wouldn't be so it's anything where the public has access.
So if it's the Marae just providing for I'm not sure how it capture if it's providing kai and those types of things and sleepover, but if the supply was providing for papakaia, then you would definitely be captured. So it's one more supplying the meeting area.
Understand,
and the houses.
Yeah.
So it's a supply to multiple properties, not just.
I think the fear would be if they said, "Oh, your Marae's got to shut down."
Yeah.
Well, we'd never say that because you've got to meet the standard. But actually, the standard in a small thing can be done, but you need a bit of money to do it.
Yeah, is that the eco? Because I keep thinking of the eco-friendly, sustainable options, but we don't seem in New Zealand, when you look to other countries, to be well developed in that space.
No.
And that I would have thought there are alternatives other than the big brother kind of, wheel.
But producer market, exactly saying, so it's a small UV, ultraviolet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they're not complicated, it's like
But they do need to be serviced, and those filters are over 100
God,
yeah, no, we've
got me a couple of times a year, so there is ongoing cost to water treatment, but you do need to put some UV across it, otherwise you'll end up things turning blue inside your house. Been there, done that.
So who's looking after, we'll look after pretty known?
We are.
Yeah.
And we'll have to license for that.
We fixed it now.
And now we. And now we.
Yeah. No, it's not articulated, so there's no.
Now we've got loans.
They're each individual's got their own.
Yeah.
Perennial
So
up until 40
Anyway,
years
long
ago.
story
Yeah,
short,
no, I see it.
there's a whole lot of work, so that, you know, the water thing is gonna be the thing, that's the big, gonna be the big journey. So when you read the NLT, you know, long-term plan compliance, you'll see a rate number that says we're asking for urban ratepayers, because remember, water supply, waste, doesn't belong rural ratepayers. There's a number of 15.3% rate increase.
Yeah.
9% of that is the water.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
and the rest is roads. We're proposing a few things to take off, to sort of try and minimise that impact, but it's all water. And it's actually the minimum.
Yeah. Avoidable.
I can't tell you how, you know, we're caught up. I can't tell you how bad things actually work. But that we're getting better now. So the thing that scares me, the thing we don't know is what's going underground, our pipes. So, you know, we've got a good sense of where our problems are, wastewater, water takes, water treatment, but it's a pipe network that we just don't know. And that's the journey.
I guess, Harry, when we get down the track, things become a bit clearer from central government, and we've done our work on it.
Yeah.
We'll probably need to workshop this with Māori.
Oh, we have to absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole journey to go, you know, but it's going to happen quickly. So, you know, they're looking at getting the legislation, at least in draft, this year and getting it into the House. But that means it'll be 2 or 3 years, even got legislation approved to actually hand everything over to these entities and so forth. There's a whole journey there. But look, one of the cool things in all this is that Te Mana Pai, you know, that's the principle that's being embedded both through the water reform and the resource management act reforms and those types of things. So it wants, you know, the whole government reform is still being dedicated fundamentally into the debate with real power, not just at the marginal edge as the consultant around things. So, you know, this is the time, you know, we'll have a conversation about a workshop and also reference to this committee, how we work.
Yeah.
You know, these are the intersecting points that actually bring these two things together. Anyway.
Can I just some other things in the report? Yep. So I got a bit confused on page 30. I got a bit confused when it was looking at the recycling bin hubs for trial, based on where did we hear? Was it in the long-term plan that we were going to get rid of all of the recycling?
Only in Greytown.
Only Greytown.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
So even the same.
So they're still going to be on. These are going to be on trial in Greytown.
Are these bins you're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So costing for installing the three towns recycling bin hub for trial. So I think that was, he
Yes, I mean, that
was
was-
looking for costings on it, wasn't it?
That trial will still continue.
Where are they?
So what we're proposing is to close the recycling station in Greytown.
Yes.
Just keep Featherston, keep Marlborough. The reason is that where that's located. It's next to the cycle trail. We're proposing that park.
Yeah, but one of these will go in there.
So these,
Okay. And can I ask, I don't think this is the right time for me to do this, but anyway, cemeteries. Cemeteries. Is there any way the council can support Marae with the maintenance of our urupa?
You are having a LTP workshop. Submission.
Yep.
Put it in there.
Yeah, you know, as a Kohinu Marae, you guys can do your own submission to the long-term plan.
Yeah, you should.
Or
And
Morris.
I think, yeah, what the
Or
more,
get it through Morris thing there. I'll get on with that.
both, the more it
That's
gets
the
brought up,
mechanism to do it, as the feeder in the long term.
the more it gets brought up. I mean, I think if each individual marae puts through something for the long-term plan, it's really important. Because, you know, it shows one, the engagement that you have, and then those key points can be fed through to the Māori Standing Committee of what you're wanting to put through, and that can go into the Māori Standing Committee submission.
Because
So-
when we did our consultation here at the marae, we were aware that we wanted another meeting with you guys because we did our big dream stuff and we didn't actually get down to the nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it costs us a lot and we don't pay anyone. It costs time, energy, petrol, you know, hours of working bees, things like that to do it. And so, okay, we have to put it into the, I know it was put through by a couple of people in the responses that in the question, there are 5 points.
It's a thing will get lost in the detail.
Yeah.
I mean, the triggers to give us a sense of scale and cost and what's actually involved.
Okay.
So council can make an informed decision, but you know, I mean, yeah.
So submissions all have to be in by the end of this month, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a little discussion on it.
Okay.
And so there's 2 avenues into these. If you think that's something that's a district-wide issue, then do it to the Māori Standing Committee. If it's a specific issue to your marae, then you need to do it through your marae.
Oh, I think it's regional,
And, yeah.
because Papua's the same.
And then that's exactly in the regional.
But that's the vehicle for
Yeah,
my
yeah,
centre.
yeah, exactly, that's my point. You know, if it's a region-wide issue, then it should come here as a, it will have a lot more weight actually. You know, not to say that the individual might won't, but it helps us, it
Yeah.
helps the council, saying this is the moment for,
Stuff says, yeah.
all the rights.
And
And you're going to
another
talk about it, aren't you?
way of looking at it, only one more right, probably than we discussed it.
Yeah.
We'll be thinking, well,
Yeah.
are there other?
How-
Yeah, they're not worried about
They
that,
don't.
whereas actually, yeah,
So it'll
needs to be
have
raised.
more weight if it goes through.
Yeah, I have something else to raise around cemeteries. I just want to talk about the Featherstone Cemetery. We've got a lot of whānau buried over there, a lot of our Māori whānau and our other whānau here. Just recently, my father and I, we went to the cemetery to try and find his great grandfather. And the information he was given was he's buried in 29. For the life of me, we do not know where 29 is. There's no numbering system in that area. The Catholic side has a numbering system from so far back, but the rest of the cemetery, it's hard to find a whānau member because you have no guidelines, you have nothing. There's no marking. So is there a way that, is this going to,
A lot of the cemeteries actually have a master.
yeah, there's nothing.
So Michelle, would you mind just dropping me a specific email on that? Because we actually funded this project last year to try and get a good definitive map for our cemetery space. Have it online so people could actually
It's
you know,
been
so they can
searched
actually
as well.
search, so people overseas, so they can know where, you know, they can actually, we don't do a big project on that, so I'm actually astounded that we actually done something as basic as that.
There are,
Would you mind-
I do not
would you
mind doing that at all.
No, so-
it's been hard done. I know the RSA holds quite a lot.
No, well, we do, we're supposed to know where the
They are.
plot is, you know, it's our job. We need to know where the plot is, so we can tell people where the entrance spots are, you know, it's our job. You know, we've employed someone for a whole year to try and sort out all this, so
Yeah,
I'll be very interested to find out why that hasn't worked.
Yeah.
so yes, the horses and everything around that.
So on that vein, so what you're saying is, and I'm thinking of why, is there funding to do like a GPR to determine where there are bodies in a cemetery?
GPS.
GPS.
You'd have.
Ground penetrating radar, so to find out there isn't?
Oh, I see.
Not right now. This was literally just to sort out the council owned cemeteries. And just to make sure that we knew where every plot was, believe it or not. Unfortunately, where we released a plot and already had someone interred. That's not going to happen ever again.
Yeah.
Let's get someone to sort this out. So that's why I'm disappointed.
So we can get
One of those actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when's it twice?
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that to your
Unfortunately,
attention.
Nigerian
And if there was something that was going to be done about.
Is there a way?
A map or something that's put up on the board so you can go there and say, oh, there they
This
are,
is the
oh,
number.
we'll know where to go. Yeah.
Because wouldn't you need that as well then? Because I mean, if you're thinking that there's a plot that hasn't been used and it has been, that wouldn't a GPR actually be a good thing for council to use to be able to?
Detail of what, this is in our own cemeteries. So this was just trying to identify, where the plots were, who's injured, and how they're access that information, but real point, and no. And so that's.
A certain area in the Catholics, on the Catholic side, the new graves, they've got numbering from 100 back to so far, but all the rest of them have no numbers.
Yeah, all that back.
I've actually walked that
railway.
cemetery twice trying to find my great-great-grandfather. And we were told he's in 29, well, where's 29?
Yeah, well, that's.
Okay, well, just put people on a point.
Oh, yeah.
We'll find out.
No problem.
I spent a whole lot of money to try and make sure that.
Yeah.
That business is not.
Anything else, anybody? Well, okay, 7.3 action items report. We will now move on to 7.3 action items report pages 55 to 58. Members, are there any questions or clarifications you'd like to ask? Any updates on open actions? But do I have a move to receive the action report, please? Do I have a seconder?
Aye.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no. Motion carried. Steph? What, we're two, how many pages are there? Two? Extras on here, you've been putting extra things on here. But are some of those actions, will they disappear the next round?
So they show with me,
Yeah.
just for one meeting and then they'll move on.
Okay, good.
And I followed up on it when I was supposed to.
Did you? Was that what number?
May I ask with the 178, so that was what was brought up by Karen.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, it says funding to progress plan proposed as part of the long-term plan. So does that mean that's already a part of the council's budget? Like where you've seen funding to progress plan proposed as part of LTP? Or is it something that once again the Māori Standing Committee should be putting forward as part of the LTP so it doesn't get lost?
I would put it forward.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's turning into a big report.
Yeah, just put it in this, it's,
Yeah, just
You're quite right. Let's have a go at that, eh? Good.
anything that can get people re-engaged with the more, like this is a good thing, so.
Can I ask on 655, the Constantine Park, have we done anything about that?
what number was it?
655. No, we haven't.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Constantine Park, someone to represent.
Oh, yeah.
We were asked to.
Yeah, if anyone knew.
Well, it only raised it, I know that they put in for a grant.
No, it's the group though, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the group, yeah.
We haven't got anybody there.
Okay, so
Are we
I
going to do
mean,
something?
it's legally, it's not requirement, but it would.
Yeah, that was just something that that Marlborough Community Board thought would
I
be.
thought the idea was just some Māori
Have someone-
representation on the.
Yeah,
on the-
yeah, it would have been great, but we haven't been able to achieve that because it's.
We haven't identified
There
anything.
we go.
I don't know the number, I don't know.
Do you want to see if anyone tomorrow's meeting?
You always
Yeah.
get
Okay.
Yeah, we've got a meeting, our Hawariki meeting tomorrow night, so I'll add it there.
There we go.
Yeah. I can just think-
So that's exactly what it is, it's not, it's delegate to Howard to actually nominate a person.
Yep.
For the, to select a person.
that'd be good.
I was going to nominate one now, Trevor Hawkins.
Oh, he would love that,
After he nearly ran me over today.
he would love that.
Yeah, we've jumped ahead here. So 252, is it one thing is all, we parked it. No, actually, parked until Māori Committee vacancies are filled. All right, we've done that, the public one, right? Work. And one vacancy for Hawariki, and then what were we going to do? Hold an election.
Yeah.
Chair.
Can I just add a comment just for everyone's visibility, actually, just the Hawariki. So you may have seen the Pānui and the Marlborough Star, anyone that knows Marlborough? Anyway, so we're in the midst of actually improving our governance and trustees. So I guess signalling, we're hopeful that once we've got a meeting here next week on the 22nd of April here in the supper room, actually, to where people who have expressed an interest in becoming a potential trustee of Hauriki can come and get a kōrero. But when we get our governance structure, I feel that we might have a better chance of actually getting another representative, because we will have clarified our governance versus our marae committee.
Sure.
So until then, but also just know, because we're looking for candidates who want to put themselves forward, or if you know of anyone that would be interested in being a trustee for Hauriki marae.
That timeframe you talked about.
Is it Kontinati Kawera?
Well, it's gone via the pānui and the paper. It's kind of following.
Anybody, so they can.
It's going out to everybody.
Someone forward, yeah.
So, yeah. Do you think that's a good idea?
I just thought a personal approach to
Yep.
people from Papu would be probably more appropriate than just in a newspaper.
Oh, so people like Teresa are already on our marae committee meeting like list, if that's what you mean. So she's part of that anyway. So there's I guess in the
Johnny
group.
Mac. Oh,
Oh, well, I can talk to her and see who else we might.
yeah.
include. Yeah, cool. But she's she's
promulgating that out
Yeah.
to Ngāti Kawera.
At the time.
Yeah, no, I'll do that too.
That's back in July last year, so I think we're done with that one, at 252, because it's in July last year, I am chairing, we've just done our deputy. We've got a vacancy at Hauriki,
Matawalangi on there.
but we've got a timeframe closing around that. So let's close that one.
But that's the term of both positions to 2028. Is
We've got a park that's been resolved.
that correct? Must be.
Yeah, it's in line with.
So that's gonna be action.
Because that was right, took that up in 2019. That's how, that's what, that's closing that vote.
But the chair, that's till September 2022, isn't it?
Wasn't it because you just filled the spot because you're deputy, and so there's no actual election? Isn't that what this is here for?
Look to hold another one once the vacancies were filled, just to reconfirm your position.
That's right, just because that we were able to.
So it's not, can't be left yet until Hauriki and then election.
Yeah, we're reconfirming, is it?
You want my view, right? So if you've been definitely doubt, if you're all happy with the reader, I would actually move the motion tonight. This is any other things I'm not aware of, and just get over and so.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, yeah, when I did accept to be chair, that I was going to September 22.
Yeah,
Because that's.
yeah, for the.
You know, so I was happy to sit in here until 2022, because it's all up for thing again anyway.
So I'm suggesting you simply move that you you know for certainty that the reader will be the chair until until 2022.
Yes.
And so someone move that, someone second it, all proposed done.
Yeah, I'm happy to move it.
Second.
All done. All those in
And
favour?
I,
Yeah, so the motion is carried. Congratulations.
Yeah. 253, what's this one again? Gosh, this one's so long, July last year again. What we do?
Terms of reference.
Oh, yeah, number 4.
Part 4.
So hang on.
Oh, yeah, that was done. So number 4, to consider adding a youth representative to the Māori Standing Committee terms of reference. Oh, we did that, we wrote it into the.
So where are they?
Oh, coming.
Okay,
You know,
we're up to-
you've had workshops.
Yeah.
yeah, there was a workshop, but because I wasn't able to go to that, I just
Oh, that's
wanted to know what came out of it, because I
So
didn't see
we
any.
workshop, you can say something, Dave.
I was just gonna say, like, there's a few things like the draft that obviously has to come up, so we've got to make some amendments and things.
Yep, so we workshopped it, there were some amendments to be added, Karen was going to update the document, I actually had thought that we'd get a draft 3 in here tonight for us to review, but that hasn't happened, Karen's not here, so.
So next, yeah.
Because we need the draft to take back to the marae to our.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a really good kōrero.
Yeah, awesome.
Terms of reference was really pleased.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we're up to the final draft really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
quick.
brilliant.
Yeah.
How do we know it's final?
Oh, yeah, we've got to consult.
Yeah,
But we're close, we're really close.
it's very close, that's great. And
Well, considering the first time we saw it was only like 2 weeks ago, it's not,
yeah, that's really good.
don't think it would be, we should expect it would be done now.
So, yes, we've actually, the
That's
youth
awesome.
representative to the terms agreements, we've done that, that's been added into the document. So that's another done one.
So everything that's parked there
Yeah,
can be gone.
We can be gone, it's be gone.
Yeah.
Sorry, that.
So actual.
I don't remember doing that, the youth in the terms of reference, but anyway,
Yeah, I'm sure it's.
Keep your eye out for it.
yeah.
Discuss options for the committee to support participation. Oh, right, that was one that Alex suggested that we keep on our radar.
What number are we at?
Number
254, it's the older community bound program.
It happens every year anyway, so.
That's different, that's different to the, what's the other one? Outward Bound, isn't it? That's different, eh?
Yes. yes.
I was hoping Alex would ask Tyzek if he wanted to go on that Outward Bound one, but Alex isn't here to
Can we
ask.
put that forward?
You put it out in life.
Yeah.
That Alex speaks to Tyzek. Or Alex.
Well, because Tyzek is already on the mayor thing.
He's the 2 year, isn't he?
2-year program.
Yes.
Oh, good one, yeah.
So I would have presumed that Alex might have already mentioned it to him because Alex is looking.
Possibly there's other, there's other hui and things that they, under that 2 year role that they actually get, like wānanga that they get invited and enrolled in throughout the year as well.
Yeah.
So like other
Alex
leadership
said he'd be
courses,
bringing
so-
him to these meetings and things like that, but yeah.
He's good way, I think, isn't he?
Oh, I look forward to that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
So should we just keep 254 on the radar?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I even know what the Outward Bound,
So
Okay.
Pui did it.
oh, that's what Puhi did?
Yeah, that's on that she did down south.
Right.
So the next one on Wairau.
And she said you can be any age, you can even be old like you guys.
Is even as old as us. Sorry.
I was going to say on the Wairau water, the dam, is that something you'd like me to arrange with Robin to come down and get?
Oh, actually, I tell you what, it's
I can see here
Bob
it's
Dixon,
confirmed.
he's contacted me, and then we had decided that we would put 3 dates back to them.
Yeah.
And so I put the 3 dates back to them, and they came back and said, yep, let's go for the 24th. So I started to circulate that and get that organised. And then he came back like a day later and said, no, I can't do it. So it's another date, like the 4th of May.
So you've got a date. So look, if you're
But,
getting
you
a
know-
run around, if you're getting a run around,
Oh, so you'll let us know the date?
and I'll chase it up. So-
Thanks.
I did notice that there were questions though on the fact that the council was putting $100,000 towards the
Resource consent.
the Wairau Water Limited with the dam.
Even though we're not
There's been a lot of
the recipients.
a lot of people questioning that, about the
That's
fact that they're not going to be.
So what they're looking is using the Ruakanga River as a transfer system. So they're not looking at piping, and that's the complexity of it. So if that's successful, then South Wairau will be recipients.
What does using what?
It's a conduit rather than.
Yeah, so rather than piping it from the dam to other places,
Let it
use the
run down the river.
as a means of actually transferring it and.
So that means then resources.
So then more people
Yeah,
taking from out of the
yeah.
Lomahanga, you mean?
And that's
The
what
implications are
you need the thing to
Yeah, they've
explain.
got to explain, they've got to
That's
explain the
right.
engineering and the
That's
technical.
quite- that's quite
So he's gone here, I'm going to bugger this, one of the key people won't be available on the 24th. It happens to be the long weekend for Anzac Day. Do you think Saturday the 8th May might work? That was the date.
Well, hang on, is it getting to be on the point of,
So look, if you
Yes.
want me to chase-
it's getting beyond, well, it's getting beyond the point of when anything's going to matter.
Search to get an alternate to CEO.
Well, the other thing I read though was that the cultural impact assessment, I read must read a newspaper article from, I don't know whether it was Rangitane or KKW, that they said they would need a few months to actually do that cultural impact assessment.
Yep.
Ra was doing it.
Hmm?
Ra was doing it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Hope he's not doing it on his own.
I actually spoke to Ra about it.
But it's just, I just question.
Because we haven't been approached about it.
And we need to know about the whole whaitua, like how, what was the findings from the Ramahanga whaitua that then this knew what they've decided they would like to do and their new proposal, how that fits in with the whole Ramahanga whaitua.
And that's why you need the workshop.
But
So that's the whaitua thing is our
think I'm-
responsibility, I think, as Māori.
yeah,
With Te Mana o Te Wai, it doesn't just give us some rights, but it also gives us responsibilities that we need to know what were the limitations, you know, restrictions or levels required within the whaitua implementation plan to then fight for it,
yeah,
advocate for it. I think that's,
and
Because remember the whaitua right now has no statutory effect. Because it hasn't actually, it hasn't been adopted. So you've got the natural resources plan, which is the key thing. And then the whaitua, the catchment by catchment plans. So the natural resources plan is the one that's being given statutory effect through the mediation process and court process right now, but the whaitua hasn't. That's the next thing.
but the national standard, is there another national
Yeah, so
standard?
they're trying to, it's a balance of trying to work out, so the natural resources plan set a number of standards for the region. And then
Which I thought came out of the whaitua implementation plan, so that's already there.
yeah, this is before that.
Oh, okay.
So this is the overview of the whole of the Greater Wellington Region's natural resources plan. So it's a regional policy and plan. And then the whaiatuas are the specific catchment.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So the thing that's currently being made certain through the courts is the natural resources plan. At the same time, that's gone to the courts. You've had the freshwater standards and the any national environmental standards for fresh water, all those types of things. And so part of the sifting process is now which has the most restrictive provisions, because they're the ones that apply. So there's a sort of say that which, so natural environmental standards automatically sums everything in natural resources plan. So they're basically trying to work out the hierarchy of instruments that go on the natural resources. Well, they sort of lay out the whaitua is sitting there, but has no statutory effect in it. So that's actually gone through a court or a legal process. Because then what will happen is you get all that sorted out. And you say, does this put something that's more restrictive to the natural resources plan? Yeah. That is the bit that has to go to the court process.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused because Vanessa Tipopi had said to me a while ago that they shouldn't have to wait for that to go through because of something else, that it's already enacted somehow.
And that's why you need to workshop to work all this out.
So it's the eighth,
But then
right?
yeah.
Okay.
How is
Anyway,
the
8th
eighth, just
of May.
find that date out?
What day was it? A Saturday?
It's a Saturday?
oh, it's nothing during the week.
Eighth of
Doesn't matter, okay, yeah.
Gary, just on the whaitua, well, it's only made it, that they weren't going to implement it until they finished the coastal whaitua.
I'm not sure of the sequencing of things here, because remember there's a whole number of whaituas that
The Ramahanga was first,
Yeah.
and then they did
But
the.
the Ramahanga one is the one that the Wakamoika is actually, yeah, so,
Good questions for the day.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a very
I think that
complex kind of space.
it is, and I just
That's
feel
why
like
you
we're
need to
missing an
try that.
opportunity. And it's just a little bit frustrating because it has been on the board, you've been trying to follow up. We asked because we felt that as the Māori Standing Committee, we weren't getting any information about this project being fed back to us. Is it possible to get someone from the iwi to come and,
According to it,
So
like,
the
right.
person that's most connected.
to explain what's going on and, where they want us to stand.
Well, Rangitane and
Yeah, so the complexities, Ra has been engaged all the way through. And particularly so because there's the other thing called resilience strategy. And Ra's been very clear about where we stand in that area from a Panganunu perspective. Rangitane, the people have changed.
Yeah.
And so they've stepped slightly aside. Colleen is not in the same space. as kahungunu, but the people that most consistently over it have been kahungunu in terms of the science of information and all the way through. So, you know, it's up to you in terms of the iwi that has been the most consistently over the issues. It's definitely right.
And we can invite the others too.
Oh, you should, absolutely, you should.
Yeah.
You should,
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, so does the 15th fit people better or is it?
Oh, no, the 8th was fine. Is there a problem with the 8th?
Well.
Oh, no, but that's all right, though, I can, as long as it gets feedback, that's one, like, would there be someone taking minutes or,
Sorry?
would there be someone taking minutes or?
We can organise someone to take.
Then that one.
Oh, for one, what can we do?
Yeah. not the fourth.
She told me to, I forgot.
Would that still be at, like Jamokai?
Yeah, let's go to Mokai on the 8th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
8th of May.
we sent out a flyer on
Okay, I'll go back to Rob and.
And do it.
so let's see.
And then we can share that out, can't we?
That's the morning,
Yeah,
doesn't work
maybe
for
you
you?
can try for the afternoon even, is it kind of, is it afternoon okay for people?
Whatever,
Oh, I don't mind.
I don't mind either.
Put on some beers, this is a good time.
Get one or two when you do.
Yeah.
You're worried.
What time are you thinking of, Narita?
it. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Helen.
So we'll probably just need to touch base about the consultation, yeah? Yeah, but we've got our Hawaii meeting tomorrow night, so I'll call you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
This time.
Okay, I'm getting it right.
I was thinking like, I'll email you. Afternoon. Oh, hang on, it's Mother's Day.
Oh, no.
No.
Mother's Day Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do. It's all right. Afternoon.
I just think if I,
He said Saturday the 8th. Right.
yeah,
Saturday.
The 8th, that's right, I'll be working hard out, that's one of my busiest days.
Yeah.
Oh, your Mother's Day, yeah. That's 15.
Can we bring it forward?
Calendar.
Have they agreed to that, Loretta?
Sorry?
Have they agreed to the 8th?
that's the
Yeah,
date
that's right, he
basically.
just
They
asked
suggested.
with the 8th, it's just yesterday.
Just what about the first?
Should we try the first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back to him and say the first.
Try the first and copy Harry and.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good as gold. Yeah, he can chase this down.
Yeah.
Put it down, the damn meeting.
Damn man.
That's during the day though, is it?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
2 till 4.
Yeah, because it's the opening of that town thing.
But so if they did it in the afternoon or would the Booktown one be in the morning or?
4 o'clock,
Oh, okay.
So morning.
So morning.
Not-
that day.
not the morning.
No, for them. No, yes.
Have this one in the morning.
One in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not 4 o'clock though.
No.
Righto.
Okay, we'll wait to
So did you want that? We're gonna try and get to
Yes, like delete.
My Tony's gonna do that, boom, 36, what we got here, secure.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, that's one for Karen, she,
Oh, sorry. Can I just go back to the first one? I just realised there's a clash here. I probably won't be going to it, but the pukaha gifting is on the same day.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll have to do that.
Whangitania gifting pukaha to the government, and that's on the 1st of May at 10
oh,
o'clock.
okay.
Okay, so first one, yeah.
That was
Quick delete that day and,
8 doesn't
During the week.
evening, how is that feasible? Weekend evening, that might work for people.
mhm.
What about, well, Tuesday seems to work for us, doesn't it?
So,
Tuesday?
all next week we've got our,
Meetings on Tuesday.
we've got our LTP and then.
So you're talking
And then
Monday,
the following week is the long,
We're talking
long, oh,
May,
Are we? I thought we were going back to April, no?
That first week in May.
first week in
Oh,
May.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Tuesday the fourth.
The fourth.
Or that Tuesday after the 8th.
Or Monday the third was the other one. We would be in the same room, we could actually do it. Let's try and double that one up.
So Monday the 3rd.
Tuesday the fourth.
Tuesday the 4th.
All this is always goes.
What are you doubling up for?
Well, that's one of the dates that we can accept our submission. We can, as a committee,
Yeah.
accept that this is the submission we're going to put forward to them.
For the LTP.
I thought.
So we've got to, as a committee, accept it
So we could do it like an extraordinary meeting as well as get these guys in to talk, because we're having an extraordinary meeting.
Just flag it. when it's coming.
But we're asking other people to come as well?
Not, so it's two
On
things.
the Māori
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just for the Māori Standing Committee.
So we can find out when they can come, and then we'll do a meeting after or before. So if they say, oh, well, we'll come at 6, and we can say maybe we'll try and get in at 5 to,
30 and get that done.
Yeah, because it's just agreeing to our submission.
yeah.
that we're gonna
And as
put
long as we
forward.
get the submission sent out beforehand, so we can have a look at it with, it's
Yeah.
really just anything that wants to be tweaked,
You will.
and then.
It's kind of the nature of the beast, isn't it? I mean, a lot
About
of
a submission, what?
The Māori Standing Committee submission to the
Oh,
long-term
right.
plans. Yeah. Yeah, so this one is the one, yeah, exactly, so many submissions,
Submissions.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where we pass it.
yeah.
What about spatial?
Hmm?
Spatial plan.
So putting
well,
the
we're doing the
submission.
long-term thing because that's where the money's.
No, but yeah, so the spatial,
Lots of that spatial.
yeah, spatial plan, there was pretty good input at this stage, and I think if anyone wants to put anything into the spatial plan, because I think each Marae probably wants to put something with regards to like Papapainga and
Yeah.
when it comes to spatial planning and those sorts of things on what their,
It's more specific to the area.
James, yeah, for spatial plans are.
Oh, so much to do.
I know,
Tell me about it.
I know, and I've got meetings every night this week.
Well, that's Karen. Karen is trying to get a date from when we start that with the cultural audit. We'll do that with Karen. But you know what? We might end up having to park that because if we do the application that I'd like to do in the submission for the long-term, it's another way of achieving that.
Is it what's,
Which bit are you talking about? Sorry, Narita.
Item number 36 of the action.
so we'll just leave that for now.
Item
Yeah.
number 36, we've gone over the page.
Then council cultural audit.
Yeah, just
Can we put a park on that?
put a park. Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Because, yeah. So 37, Lloyd Council with the list of names. Oh, right, this is one that Karen brought up and she wants to name all those bridges and creeks. So Karen will come back and pick that up when she comes back.
I'm still not happy with that date for the Wakamoiko. Can we make it a Sunday?
Okay, I'll have a look at some dates and then put a.
Yeah.
Just if it's an evening, it's like people are tired and they want to just hurry up and get it rushed through, and then you don't get an opportunity to hear the views, especially if there's some other meeting on as well.
Okay, I'll put some dates out and see how we go.
Will we still keep the Tuesday though for the long to put the
Well, we
long-term
do,
plan?
hang on, let's get to that one. Hang on.
We'll still keep the Tuesday the 4th.
Sorry, I don't.
We are up
We've
to,
already got it locked in.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
I'd like to keep with the 4th.
Tuesday. I didn't even know about that. Why didn't I know
Oh,
that?
yeah. the 4th, yes.
that's what we just were talking about.
Oh, yeah, but I didn't realise it was that before then.
okay, that's all our actions, so page 59 to 62, income and expenditure report. So I did have a little meeting with, Katrina and
No, not that, no.
Charlie. And so looked at our income and expenditure reporting and just decided to break it down a little bit easier so that we've got a. you know,
I know, I saw
figure
that, yeah.
Right at the start of it, you can see what we've got
Yes.
allocated to each fund.
Yeah.
What's
Well
happening and where we're at. Okay.
Yeah,
Easy to understand.
I'll move that we receive the income and
Oh, sorry,
expenditure
sorry,
statement.
do I have a mover to receive the income and expenditure statement? Thank you.
Second.
And thank you, Billy's to second. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say aye. Motion is carried. So chairperson's report, that's on page 63. Do I have a mover to receive the chairperson's
Oh,
report?
can we just really quickly just mention what the income and expenditure that, about the marae and the funding? Because we didn't have anyone from Papua here.
It's coming.
That's right, I spoke to this place.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Halfway. So chairperson's report, do I have a mover to receive the chairperson's report?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jippy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Garrick. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Motion is carried. So in our report, one thing is I got some minnow traps, and those are for collecting like small fish for cultural monitoring. So Paita Mokai and Kuhanui are undergoing a cultural monitoring program. So setting up their own programs, identifying water bodies that they want to monitor for health and water clarity, how clean the water is. And so some of the gear that we need, we allocated funding under the Te Taio Po with Māori Standing Committee to enable us to do that. So we're going to be buying some waders, some got the G minnows in, and I've got white nets on order with Mountains to Sea because they were doing an order already, so we're saving on shipping. So I've tagged that onto those for us to cut. And the last thing is some waders. So I'll be getting waders, and then I'll be able to give Kohanui all that equipment to you guys. And I've already spoken to Lee and told her where I'm at with that, and so for her to put something together for the Māori Standing Committee around what body of water you guys, please. What body of water you guys are going to monitor. We're doing the Tauira stream in Featherston, so it starts up in the hills, goes past the old dump site, goes past the other side of Featherston, out to the start of the wastewater treatment, and then the top of the Moana. So we're doing 5 locations and looking at our water and fish species and habitat.
Can you just run over what those things are? So I can see what minnow traps.
Oh, G minnow they're called, and white nets.
What nets?
They're in the report.
Like catching eel in, you know, the long ones that have the sections in it.
Oh, yeah.
You put a bit of bait in there and it goes out to one way.
Inaki.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, hinaki.
White nets and
Waders, fight nets, and G minnow
traps. And waders as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, I was usually reimbursed $384, and so now council have said also we're not getting supplies like that given to invoice direct to council rather than me to put on my credit card and things like that. Yay to that. You know, and then Lisa had to do this. We've got here, number 3, consider the draft Māori Standing Committee long-term plan special. Oh, that's, we're going to do that on the, we decide.
Just get that.
That's it here somewhere. Oh, here we are. Is this what you mean, this one here? No.
So just.
Oh, okay, sorry, yep. Do I have a mover to approve funds of $384 for G-Minnow traps used for cultural monitoring programs at Cornwall? Refunded, not to be funded from the Te Taio Po of the operating budget.
Oh,
right.
Andrea and Suzanne. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say aye. Motion is carried. Now, to discuss-
Have you got prices on the waders and the fight nets? Because they're not in that.
oh, she's always.
No, that's just.
I know they're roundabout pricing for the white nets, and we've got plenty in the budget for them.
Right.
And I've got to wait for Mountains to See to come back with what the pricing is.
Right.
But I know we've got enough in the budget for them.
Right. Yeah.
And waders are about $100 a pair. Right, discuss the approach to making submissions to the long-term plan and spatial plan. Well, I'll talk about the long-term plan. Yeah, so, right, so one thing we're going to do is delegate someone to write the report, and the other thing is to just sort of outline what we're going to put in that report. And then it will get drafted, sent out to everybody, have a wee think, have a wee tweak, and then once we're happy with that, then we need to adopt it. And then we submit it for the 30th of April. So yeah, as usual, not a lot of time around the pump as always. But so that's what we need to do. I would like to delegate myself to, well, no, I would like to write it, if that was okay with everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, great.
Drafted by all means.
It's a draft, so everyone will get a chance to have a look at it.
Thank you.
A couple of things I would like to do in there. So when we first started realising that we long-term plan was the key for us, we identified that we actually needed someone in council to do certain roles for us that we were struggling as a committee to do because we were working full-time. It wasn't working for us, that structure. And so we identified that we needed somebody. But what I'm a dedicated resource paid by the council as a member of council. So that's great. That's the gap that we've got. But what I'm proposing for this submission is that we write it to the supports of that person. We write it that we look at someone to come in and do the foundation work for that role, because it's one thing to take someone on and know that we've got the gap and then throw them in there and go sort it out.
What do I do? Yeah.
Yeah, whereas we've got an opportunity where we could put someone in there that understands those roles, that could build that capacity in the council, so that when we do select someone to come in and do that role, that there's all these supports in place for them. And so the examples that I've got given, because I've been talking to a few people around what that role would look like. And so the areas this person identified this council could actually work on to help support someone as a kaipapa maenga would be like around settlement implementation. So they'd be applying for statutory acknowledgements into Wairarapa combined plan, internal processes for notifying iwi on statutory acknowledgement areas, applying for official name changes to council documents, appointment to processes for South District Council Wairarapa Board, and support to South District Council nominee to Wairarapa Board and general support options. And he was suggesting that policy development needs to be put in there too. So that would be like a te reo policy, covers internal publication and style guidelines, as well as public use of te reo park signs, etc. A naming policy, so that's to cover off things like what is the process if you've got someone from council or a new developer. Do they go to iwi first for the names for new development, streets and parks? We set the process there. And funding policy, basic things like guidance for koha and valuing cultural support. I'm getting asked these questions all the time. We want to go to Kohanui, what's the right thing to do? Or take the kai for starters, take a koha. What's the limit of the koha? And so if we have those sort of guidelines in place, then our person that comes into that role has got the policy and the guidelines to stand on. Whereas if we just threw them in there.
So this is like a job spec, isn't it? So it's actually getting a job description set up to actually, so then you can then pop them the right fit to do that role.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so, and this is around also your policy development with the funding policy, basic things like guidance for governance policy work, what the standing committee does involving iwi and governance, and consideration of how to approach Māori wards and what the alternatives to this is. And that's going to become dialogue going forward. So we need to have a space foundation.
It needs to be something really, really clever.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be moving within Māori wards.
Engagement and development and engagement framework, when to engage, on what topics, types of engagement, certain thresholds, channels, tools, guidance to staff on using engagement framework, external resources for people using council services on iwi and some guidance, who they are, where, contact details, types of projects to engage on, good practice engagement for applicants, rough schedule of potential costs to consider. So that's that other thing too. We often, sometimes we put people into positions and we haven't fleshed out what it's actually going to cost to resource this person to do the job, and then they get to certain things and there's no money for it. So that comes to a stopper. So what I'm sort of suggesting is that we set this role up so that it doesn't fail, that we set the person up to succeed in it, which means building the foundation and the supports for the individual. Another area is cultural competency and building a bicultural organisation. So treaty and cultural values training for staff and councillors, training on local iwi hapu context, some HR work, building cultural competency into role descriptions and expectations, which would be great, and cultural sensitive recruitment guidance and marketing. This is stuff where I know the council are asking these kind of things, like they realise they're, you know, short in those spaces.
A lot of
So,
stuff for one person.
As long as
Yeah,
one
but
person,
They don't do it, they can just, you can cherry pick. I think it's, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think the important thing here also is to be aware that the recommendation is 90,000 a year to go in at a budget. Now, we don't want anybody to stand up or submit and say, no, we don't think you should pay that. I mean, you can ask for more. And if the job description is such, and I think this is exactly what you're talking about, it's job description. And it gets to the stage to say, well, actually, we may have to bring somebody else in to help on the cultural side, to help on, you know, organising.
that's having the networks, which is why in my mind, I always thought it was important to have that cultural, what were they calling it, at the council? Yeah, the cultural audit
Absolutely.
for the council beforehand. So that way, a lot of what's in there is then implemented, but they also have the people who gave the recommendations as someone that they know they can fall on to help, you know, after them.
Is Papakainga in there?
in the,
And what's there? Oh, why I'm saying that, I think it's Hastings District Council have got a person there who, if your whānau or whoever owners of the land wants to set up Papakainga, and you know there's all these different areas of the council that you've got to go to get that all organised. Instead of them having to do that, there's one person who is au fait with all the different aspects of council required to set up a Papakainga who can support the whānau who are applying.
Do you know how long that's been in place?
No, I don't, and I can't remember the guy's name.
Because I've gone to Hastings Bay Council
How
to
long
do
ago?
that. That was about a couple of years ago.
So when we had those workshops up at REAP beginning of this year, they talked about, and I think it was last year, that they set this person up. So it just made it more negotiable for
Avoid barriers.
people to do that.
So that would probably come out in this process,
And that person.
and allow us to feed in, you know, at this stage, we're wanting to get the resource approved. To then be able to shape that.
But I mean, it's got a lot of detail in there. I just wondered whether it could be added into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to be able to work alongside.
I'm not sure that.
So
you'll put
Papakainga
that-
liaison.
no, I'm not going to
Submit.
copy paste that. But yeah, those are those 4 areas though, and they're quite good, and like.
That's awesome.
That's the backing document.
That is
isn't it?
fantastic.
This would help us, you know, like it's just that thing of, you know, just bringing someone in for this role. We realise that we need someone in council to be that conduit for us that can make.
Yeah,
those
no,
things.
that's good.
We know that, but we don't want to put that young person in there. We've got a young rangatahi, you know, they might want to feel, we put them in there and then we watch them sink. I couldn't bear it, you know? So we've got to set some supports for that person. So now this role here, there's the other part of this. There is someone that I'm considering for this role who I've been working with around in that Andrea. It's actually Scott, who was our facilitator when we first engaged, the council first engaged with us around the long-term plan. Did you meet Scott? I don't know if you heard that. And so, but this is what he's done for a job with various councils, Ministry of Environment. He's been the, what do you call it, the Māori relations person with the Ministry of Environment. He's worked for Wellington City Council.
Treaty settlement.
Yeah, treaty settlements. Like, this is really fluid stuff, and he sees them as this is the minimum that should be happening.
Yeah, no, that's great.
He knows how to implement it.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that, you know, if we're able to secure that funding and we use that to help secure it, that maybe that's the first 12-month contract, 6 to 12-month contract. And we
12, yeah.
get in
I think, I always think 6 months, 6 months is, it gives people the opportunity to take off. It's not enough time. You need 12 months to be able to,
12-month contract, and then the next 2 years, because we would have locked in that funding for 3 years straight off. That's when we start to look for someone for that role.
Yeah, and go for 3 years. Yeah, ask for 3 years. Don't do it one.
And so does, in the submission, do you then have to do another submission for the next part of it?
Yeah, you do it in two parts. So the first part is, so one, yeah, the things that the council are asking us to comment on, we acknowledge all that, and we go, yeah, from the Māori perspective, that we have a clear response to the 7 things they're asking us to have feedback on.
Yep.
And then the second part of it is, these are our responses, and that's when we can talk about specifics. So the things we were talking about earlier, talking about that role, ring-fencing that money, and what we'd like to see it being utilised. So it's 2 parts.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, no, sorry, no, what I meant was, it's in the one that you've read to us,
yeah.
that's creating
Yeah.
the role.
Yeah.
And then, because it's a long-term plan, and that part might be only 12 months, then the next, the person actually coming in to be that person that this role is created for, does there have to be a different submission?
No,
No, the funding's there.
No,
Funding's-
once we,
because we would have secured the funding.
Right.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
So what we
And
would
get it
do
locked in.
towards the end of his contract is actually get him to help us write the job description.
Yep.
And then we would go through council and advertise it through their channels.
Right,
And then be part of that interview.
yeah, no, that's cool.
because it was one of the things with setting up Alan Maxwell, basically, and just saying that this, we need someone that sits and is there looking after our youth, and he's doing it anyway, and everything that he's needing, so helping to make sure that he had funding over 3 years to be able to, getting him to space and Featherston, all that kind of stuff. So helping to set him up to succeed, not to fail.
Yeah.
So that went really well, and that's why I listen to this and I'm like, yeah, it's really awesome.
Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, that is
That's great.
fantastic.
That's great.
Okay, so I think I've got to accept that. Do I have
Such
a
good
mover?
detail.
So I'll do this one.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a mover to delegate to the Māori Standing Committee Chair the ability to draft, to me,
Yeah.
to draft the supplement for the 21-31 long-term plan and spatial plan, and to agree to hold an extraordinary meeting to approve the submission, which is what we'll have to do.
Yes.
So okay, I'll do the submission. Do I have this, sorry, that was getting, mover. Sorry.
Got to get me
Do I have a
moving.
Yeah.
Was there other things in the long-term plan that we want to do submissions for? Or was that a
No, all those in favour, please say
aye?
aye. All those against, please say aye. Sorry, what was that? Motion was carried.
Other points we want to submit.
Under
You
the
can
long-term
include those.
plan.
Under the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I was writing them down. wasn't I?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's-
There was the cemetery.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think from the meeting, from the long-term planning meeting, I didn't bring.
That's going, that draft will go out.
But is it,
That draft will go out.
Yes, that's
and,
right. That's right.
and is it possible, and perhaps, because.
I need to go
as you say,
back.
you haven't bought yours, so we could always get back and feed it back to.
I need to go back.
Feed into
Email
what the draft looks like, so if you can incorporate it.
Have you got items, email, Narina?
Yeah.
If you want them included in the Māori Standing Committee,
Yeah.
submission, sure. So then these options for meeting are limited as follows. So these are these 3 days. So once I've written it and the draft has gone out, everybody's happy with it, we've got to accept the submission or approve the submission. And those are the 3 dates council are giving us.
The 4th.
Yeah, the 4th. So at the moment it's the 4th. And then we will submit it and fingers crossed. Yeah, right.
So how,
6 p.m. Oh, we're waiting here.
how do we get items
So I'm
onto
going
it?
to talk to Karen about. Yeah,
How do we get items onto the long-term plan? Should we-
Yeah.
You can do your, you can still do your
You
own.
don't get all of my individuals, you can put in the submission.
Yeah, you can do
For
your own.
Kapawai, and then to the long-term plan directly through to the council. And then, so anything additional, that affects Kapawai.
All specific.
But things like Urupa, that
Yeah.
affect, like you said, is regional or district-wide. And not only that, any of those other concerns.
I just remember when we had the long-term, the workshop in here, it was like, if there's anything in there that you like, You better put a submission in, otherwise it might not be there.
Yeah, that's why you
Yeah.
must
It
do.
is, it's what it's-
That's why I was thinking, I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more in it. And
Oh, yeah, so, you know, like this was saying, there's two parts. So this submission, what I'm talking about here is our second part. This is our, these are our responses.
Yeah.
The first part of it is the 37 items that you've got to respond to. So
Yeah,
council are
well,
asking questions on.
You know, your berms.
Yeah, like, do we mow the berms or do they don't mow them anymore? 'Cause it's-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Things like that.
That's at 6 p.m. on the 4th.
6 p.m. on the 4th? Yeah, okay. Right. So has anybody got an extra day that I can use to write that?
You'll see this on a calendar. Friday, so. Sorry.
Yes. Right, we're getting it. So,
did you say 6 p.m.?
6 p.m. the 4th of May.
It's not the same. That's the night.
right, 10 to 8, 10 to 8.
Not just.
Oh, we're still excited. God.
So discuss the funding and cultural, installation to this one. Okay. So we're up to Tawa. Garrett, do you have a report already?
Yeah. Sorry, this is a bit of a rush, came through the councillors, and once again, because the way we work was quite handy, I could take it through to Narita, so it came to this meeting and it's here. Basically what it is a request from Heritage and Culture who've gone out to the councils under a new program which they're calling CARE, which is cultural, I've lost the words now, something rather educational.
Creative.
Arts recovery and employment. So it's arts and recovery and employment there. There's a pool of money out there. The initial applications is for between $1,000 to $20,000 for an event or a function or a cultural activity. The next phase out of that is for $100,000. Now, at this stage, the first round is going to open up as a blind date.
Opened on the Friday, the 9th of April.
First round closes 7th of May. So what I just want to raise tonight is, can you go back to your groups and discuss this, because we're looking to say we'd like to get some submissions and the money's on the table. And the sort of things they're looking at, they describe some of them there, which is art exhibitions, kapa haka, weaving, sight and sound, museums, theatre. It can be pretty broad as far as I can see it. Now, the plus in this is that if the event is accepted by Heritage and Culture and comes back to your local body, in this case, South Wairarapa, we will then be in a position to provide our facilities for that event to take place. So if you want to use the Anzac Hall or this hall, yes, council would be in a position to put this up to you. So it's a win-win between the organisations, but we really need sort of grassroots support coming through. And I think it needs some sort of something original coming back. We don't want to do the same old thing. It needs to be new, and it needs to be generating employment and engagement, so that we get 2 cracks at it. That first lot for 20,000, so we've got until May for that one. And then the 100,000, I wonder if it might be better to actually, if somebody's got some really good ideas, we sat down and went through it and said, look, this is a really good idea for the community. It could be spread through the whole community. It could be a travelling event. It could be an exhibition.
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's something that could be a original.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Or it could be a creation which is permanent, i.e. like the pile or something like that. Something which we think is important to our community.
So one of the didn't they?
Yeah, oh, yeah, I was there. So I was going to say, can you, I have already forwarded this to Simone, but can you take her around? I'm going to meet with her on Friday, because this might be going over our car.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
That's something old dovetail.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, they're all one.
It's got a very much cultural focus, which is why I think it should be coming from here. I think that,
We had a sponsor, Bermuda.
Yeah.
So, you know, but in part of that sponsorship, they, you know, it'd be nice if they came down and did an event for us down here.
Yeah.
Performance for us down here.
Absolutely. At the Marae. So with that.
Go
What dates are the Mariah's going to be completed, the alterations? I mean, are we looking at?
Well, it depends when they start.
September.
It's very frustrating.
We can't wrap any events around that.
Use the serum that they're doing renovations.
Oh, well.
That's at the moment, like it's going through now, so I'm not quite sure how soon Hauriki will be finished, but
It's kind of had a ripple effect, Hauriki not doing their stuff yet, because the same builder's doing Papua.
Oh.
And the same builder's doing Hurunui Orangi, I think, as well.
oh, really?
And
Yeah.
Oh, is it Albert?
LB, yeah. So the other marae can't start yet, and the funding is meant to, the PGF wanted all of this all over and done with by October. But
They should have used some more builders.
But the other thing, I think Hauriki were waiting for some consents, for the sprinkler systems and things. And it was meant to be shovel-ready projects that you didn't apply for consents.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a real.
Well, no, and it was
Mix-up
coming like through council, so I'm a little bit surprised to hear that there was suddenly like these consents and everything that they were needing to.
That was the PGF thing, was shovel-ready.
According to Trevor, it's all about securing the piping and all what we do decades ago with it. Rice has sorted out the consents for
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
it.
So there wasn't, yeah, they didn't need them consents.
So, yeah, so that's something to think about, Carmen.
And you're on to what's on.
Yep.
I think that's really exciting. So really just to look at, anyone who has ideas about,
Yeah.
you know, ways that they might be able to.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Coming out to you guys.
yes.
It is Friday, the 30th of April, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Great Marks Town Hall. Not a pohehi, but a mihi whakatau, and Papawai kind of they'll take care of that for us. So 5 to 7 is our discussion. Invitations will be coming out electronic, and we'll get some hard copy ones as well. And then we're going to take them to dinner. So I've got to work with Charlotte to find out what we'll do there. I think we should just go to the White Swan and just get a long table on the other side of the public bar. It's
Friday the 30th,
And
did you say?
yeah, that's right. And that will be Māori Standing Committee and Dark Skies Committee at that dinner. And then he's going back to Wellington that night. So it's
Friday, 30 April.
30 April, yes. So I'll have something for them. And in terms of the program,
Yeah.
oh yes, how do we want to run that? How do you envisage that on the night? So, yeah, Billy's, in terms of a program, how do you want to, does everyone just come into the room and?
Oh, yeah, the way I see it is that everybody's in there already and seated, and I guess there'll be people on the stage area there. That might be, I'm not quite sure, representatives from.
Yeah. How should we do that? Should we just make Dark Skies? Yeah, because it's,
Well,
we're total for them.
Correct, I think
So-
it's there,
Yeah.
it's there, hui.
Yep.
My
So Dark
understanding
Skies
is there.
got the rangi up there, us as the Māori Standing Committee, we could.
We don't all have to be up there, maybe.
We don't.
representative.
But you do,
Yeah,
as a chair.
and then it's just introduce
Yeah.
the kaupapa. And I guess Ravi's going to be speaking to the kaupapa.
Yep.
Dark Skies people are going to be having
Yep.
something to say as well.
Martin Weavers wants to do an introduction. I wondered if we should take an opportunity to introduce ourselves as the Māori Standing Committee, because I'm not sure that everyone knows who's representing who. Yeah, should we do that? You guys have time that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice, it's nice.
Okay, we'll do that as well, and then, so, yeah, we'll just let everyone come into the room, get seated by 5 o'clock, do the mini whakatau, then hand over to Martin to do this
Yeah.
audio,
Yeah.
and then the introductions, probably everyone introduce his committee, we'll introduce our committee, then we'll hand over to Dr. Rangi.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's at 5, isn't it? I'll get there as soon as I can.
5.
To work.
5 o'clock. And then we'll, I reckon we should just go White Swan, just keep that nice and easy. It's not great food there, great food there. Anybody had a good experience at White Swan?
They do those special platters, aren't they?
Is that all right? Should we do
The
something?
offering?
Yes.
Oh, so in terms of
No, I meant
Paying-
the offering, I meant the restaurant, the offering is quite nice.
Just trying to keep it simple. Plus, he is still driving back to Wellington, so he probably doesn't want to make it a late night.
Do you need someone to set up the room or? Right, so I can do that.
Yeah, he'll just, yeah, I'll get Charlotte to go in. She's paid 5 hours a week by tax clients. She can
5 PM.
organise it.
What about a microphone? and a-
Yep, we're,
And it's at the Greytown Hall.
Greytown Town Hall, and sorted out a PA for us and a couple of microphones for the audience to have a bit of a discussion. Yeah. So maybe a couple of us are holding some microphones to the crowd. So
Who's invited to this?
So we brought the iwi and then Tumaira and the Kahununu equivalent and like Ra Smith, our orator. So it was going to go to each marae with 2 representatives from the marae. So all of the Māori Standing Committee and then 2 from your marae. And then there'll be people like, there's like someone coming from Greater Wellington, someone from Reader, the 3 meetings, but that's dark skies. They'll do that part. It's just, we thought about the community boards, but the Māori members of the community boards, like Brenda from Featherston, someone from Greytown.
We probably need to invite reps from the Greytown community because I'm sponsoring the board.
Oh, I think I'm sponsoring the group. Oh, okay, can't wait. So, yeah, people.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I was just gonna say that we dug the holes out at Harming Point today for the GNS.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, cool, yeah.
Harvey was out there
Oh, this,
last week, yeah. You'll be pleased to know that with no comment,
Yeah,
with
okay.
no bones,
Oh, good.
Excellent.
and which I said to Harvey, I said, it's a bit of a sad thing in a way, because if you had have found a min or something, you could have got a little bit more knowledge of what went on and when it went on. He agreed, but the thing is, they're just measuring to see when the sea level dropped and all the aspects.
The impacts of earthquakes and tsunamis.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they were starting at Kawakawa, and they didn't expect to find anything more there.
So they finished that Te Huminga.
They're going to fill the whole paper on Friday.
Right. So GNS came out to Kohinoe Marae
Yeah,
and talked to us about what they wanted to do.
but Harmy and Foss Leach have been heavily involved.
Yeah.
Christine Barnett.
That's more like it's happening beneath the water.
Yes, no, it's what happened in the past.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, the sea, you could see by the layers, that the sea was actually right up to the road.
They were actually looking for shell fossils.
Yeah, they did find some right down by the beach.
Oh, good.
So around the dinner, so how do you guys feel about it? Because it's sort of going to catch up with Viv, and then she just said, we've got no money. And I just sort of looked at it like, I'm not committing to anything here today. And I thought, I was going, well, you're going to have to find some money. You've brought Dr. Rangi Mātāmua into the, you have to find something. And so Māori Standing Committee, are you guys happy if we pay for ourselves as far as the dinner goes and a koha to?
yeah, give it.
Yeah. What could we give them as a gift? A book or something? A book, is that a thing to do? Should we do that? Should we give Dr. Rangi a book from the Māori Standing Committee? Maybe that White and Up one. Yeah, that's a good one. Do you want to do
The
something
lake and
like
its
that?
people, that one.
Yeah,
One of
yeah,
them, one of the
yeah.
lake and its people.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do something
Yeah,
like
that's a
that?
good idea.
Maybe
That's a nice idea.
anything else do you think?
Well, I mean, we were thinking about things we were going to give Caleb,
Yeah,
and
sure.
so we were going to give him something of harakeke, so a woven item. Violet's got a few pieces. We've actually, at the marae, we were going to give like natural honey and things like that, different things, but
You've done well.
He's got his own bees. He's got loads of bees.
right, well, you won't want that.
It's coming into winter. It's something.
Yeah, but, no, that's good.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah, maybe that, we could do that from the Māori Standing Committee. And so are we happy to use our budget to pay for ourselves, our committee that comes to the dinner? We've actually got, we've got a lot of foods here that we do need to. spend. So it could come from, I think here, Po.
Yeah, this is what it's kind of for. This is what.
Anything else, Alice, you want to add? Anything else?
I just need to make sure that everybody's clear about the kaupapa for this hui. It's, my understanding is it's in support of Dark Skies to make application. And those that are invited to the hui are those that can contribute to the storytelling. So that's why it's a restricted by invitation. Yeah, people have to contribute to the corridor thing rather than every Tom, Dick and Harry turning up.
Yeah.
He has agreed to come back and do a public speaking, which is
Correct.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Which is
and I think that's where Matariki will come in.
Yeah.
So that was
It is.
great.
Raihania's getting an invitation.
What are your thoughts on
Yeah, we'll do like that, yeah. And Te
what
Ataki,
type of contribution?
she's one of our really good orators. out there.
We, you know, like.
Oh, yes, yes, I've seen her on the environmental.
Stories. It's specific.
Okay, that's good, that's good, so I know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. Anything else? I think we're just about there. Last thing, okay. So, a few months back, I think it was our first meeting after Christmas, I wanted to introduce, we had a cordial right at the very, very end, 2 minutes, and it was like we'd all take a turn in sharing something about our whānau, our people, who we are today, and how we've come to be the person that we are. So, for me, I talked about Haupai Māori, which is something we say in Taranaki, and it's around, peace be upon you, and it was definitely the words of Te Whiti and Tohu, who said that to our people as the soldiers and came to storm Parihaka. And so it was, and I've also heard this old kaumatua say, it was like him putting his hand there, like your bullets, I'm going to fend off your bullets and your evil thinking because my hand is here. And what I know today is when I think about my aunties and uncles and our marae, they are still very much like that. They are still very much a passive resistant people. They are still really true to that. And I just feel like that's probably something I take away with me all the time. So, so I wanted to create that sort of safe space for us to share and get to know each other on a different level. And so, Jippy, you shared a quote with us, and now I just want to throw it open, and we're going to make a little bit of a practice of this at each of our hui. So if anybody off the top of your head got something you'd like to share that speaks to you, your whānau, who you are today. You don't have to. You can think about it and bring it up again at grace.
Yeah, definitely.
I know in our whānau we'll always be told, manaakitanga is the number one tikanga for us. And I'm just thinking, we've just been finishing off with having our manuhiri, organising ourselves and how we represent our rohe and our whānau tikanga. So that's heartening for me to be able to step into that space and brings us together as Māori Standing Committee and leading, the Gillies leading out on that, with, Kokowai behind. And I just think that's a beautiful way of working, and something that resonates with us.
Yeah, kia ora,
Good
to have you guys on board. Oh, it's good. And it's funny because we were sort of having a bit of a giggle a little while ago, over a year ago, just that we had our waka, but we didn't have enough people on the waka. And then the people on the waka, not everybody had a paddle. So it was hard work, but I feel like our waka is, full, and there's a lot more paddles on the waka now. So kapai, closing karakia. That's a big bit, Suzanne. Right.
So if you all wanted to, the karakia is on the back second page of the agenda. Unuhia, ki te urutapu nui, kia wātea, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, I te arataka tū. Koia rā e rongo whakairi ake ki runga, tūturu whakamau ake a tīna, hui e tāi.